Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northern Nevada, where it's our mission to grow together in love, faith, justice, and joy. We here at UUFNN are growing in numbers, and in our faith that by being and working together, we can bring about justice and build a compassionate community. It's a joy to see each of you in person and on Zoom for this time of reflection and introspection. We welcome all to be part of us, regardless of racial identity, ethnic background, age, economic circumstances, sexual orientation, or gender identity. UUFNN is about compassion and support, not judgment. I'm Bill Miller. Personal pronouns, he, him, his. It's my pleasure to serve as your worship associate this morning. If this is your first time visiting us, welcome. If you're online, feel free to contact the office or our website for more information. You can also click on the chat box to fill out the newcomer form and sign up for our newsletter. If you're here in person, please see one of us to help get someone who can get you that information. For those on Zoom, please note you can update your name on screen. You will remain muted during the service, but can use the chat box for comments, especially during the prayer and meditation sessions. As a courtesy, please refrain from posting announcements while folks are presenting. Following the service, please stay on for a virtual coffee hour to chat face-to-face. If you're here in person, you can congregate outdoors, maybe. Smoky out there, or indoors for coffee and conversation. Regrettably, COVID lingers. While we have lifted restrictions, please honor all those who choose to mask and observe social distancing. It's not over. Again, I'm Bill Miller, your worship associate for today's water communion service. Let us get started.
Welcome, welcome, welcome this morning to our annual gathering of the water service, one of my personal favorites. Today is the first time that we have been able to have this service inside in 3 years. Having learned to have it outside, then we had to move it inside for this week. So we pivot and we adapt as we need to and as we have learned to do over the last few years. Today, we're all about water and the great gift that water is. And so I invite us to ponder our life-giving relationship with water in all of its many forms. The water that in our homes runs reliably from the tap. The water in the Truckee River that flows from Lake Tahoe through Reno, all the way to the indigenous lands of the Paiute to Pyramid Lake. The water in oceans and in pools, water that rushes down storm drains after a rain, the water that comes with disasters and floods that we witness on the news, the water that is right now being used to fight the wildfires not very far away. Clean water that is absent or scarce. We bear witness to the devastation of the lack of water in developing countries, here in the West, right here in Nevada. Water that is being fought over in many locations in our world. And so today we want to really ponder the great gift that is water and our relationship to it. I'm going to invite Ellery to come light our chalice for us this morning. And those of you at home on Zoom, you can access your chalice and light it right along with us. And so we gather from the ebb and flow of our lives, thirsty for the connection to ourselves, to others, to the larger life as we light this chalice. May all of us who gather here today find our thirst quenched so that we may in turn pour ourselves out like so much water to the world. Would you rise in body or spirit for our opening song as we dream of having peace like a river and we name and claim it?
Hello. I want to tell you all a story. And in order to tell this story, I have recruited the help of some friends. So if you are helping me tell this story, I want to invite you up here to stand in your spots. This is a story about a water drop with a dream. Once upon a time, there was a water drop named Higgins. I am Higgins. And Higgins, myself, was no ordinary water drop. I was a water drop with a dream. You see, I live in a valley where it had not rained for a very long time. So all the lovely green grass was turning brown, all the beautiful flowers are wilting, and all the trees are starting to droop. But I woke up one day from a dream, and the dream told me that the valley would one day be a beautiful place again. But what could I do? After all, I'm only a drop of water. One day, I decided to travel around and tell folks about my dream. All the other drops listened very politely. But no one believed my dream could come true. They would tell me, Higgins, get your head out of the clouds. You can't spend your whole life dreaming. And I decided that I had to do something to make my dream come true. So I began to think and think and think. And one day, I'm walking past an old rusty bucket, and I got an idea. If enough of us water drops get in this bucket together, there would be enough water to sprinkle on a few flowers to help them grow, and they'll become beautiful again. And eagerly, I told everybody about this idea, and everyone thought I was foolish, and that once again, I was nothing but a dreamer. And I decided I had to do something to convince others that I was right. So I said, I don't know about you, but I'm getting into this bucket. And I hope some of you will join me and that there might be enough water to help at least a few flowers grow. And so I had to back up. And I had to run as hard as I could. And I can't run. So I'm gonna waddle. And with a kerplunk, I landed in the bottom of a bucket. And for a long time, I was lonely because no one seemed to want to join me. But after a while, some other drops could see that the grass was dying and the flowers were wilting and the trees were drooping, and they all agreed that something had to be done. Suddenly, kerplunk, a drop landed in the bucket with me. And soon another one yells, I'm going into the bucket with Higgins. And they leaped and landed and kerplunked. And two more drops yelled, wait for us, as they hopped through the air and landed in the bucket. And soon 10 drops jumped, and then 30, and then 50, and then hundreds from all around jumped into this bucket with me. And soon the bucket was completely full of water, so full that I started to not be able to see outside of it. But soon, there were still more drops that wanted to join. So they found another bucket and hopped in. And before long, there were 2 buckets, 3 buckets, 4, 10, and then hundreds and thousands of buckets of water. And then along came a powerful breeze that blew over all the buckets. And the water flowed together to make a mighty stream. Everywhere the water flowed, grass turned green, flowers bloomed, trees stood tall and straight once more. And all this happened because I had a dream and a bucket. Because I knew that although I was just a drop, enough drops in the bucket could make a bucket full. And when there are enough buckets with the right wind behind them, then justice will roll like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. Thank you.
Every year in Unitarian Universalist communities across the U.S. and across the world, we celebrate a gathering of the waters ritual. And this morning, we join thousands of other UUs in this tradition of individually bringing water or symbolically pouring water from a variety of meaningful places and pouring it in a collective bowl, symbolically honoring our deep connections to one another.
The very first water ritual that began this annual tradition was held in 1980. In the 1970s, in the years leading up to the creation of the water ritual, UU women began voicing loudly the problem of sexism inherent in religion in general and in Unitarian Universalism. Women were expected to be silent parts of Sunday morning worship and community life. And as was common, the language in Unitarian Universalism included in the 7 principles talked about men and mankind and wasn't inclusive at all for women. And it will likely come as no surprise to any of you that the way the UUs in the 1970s responded to the concerns of sexism was to start committees, create study groups, and pass resolutions. And so it was within this context that a new water ritual was created. It was designed and led by 2 women for a worship service for an event called the Women and Religion Continental Convocation of Unitarian Universalists, and was specifically created in a way that to them was more authentic and liberating. The original ritual was very similar, with 8 women coming forward with water from a variety of sacred places, pouring the water into an earthen bowl. And during the ritual, water was seen not just as a symbol of connection, but as a symbol of empowerment.
And so as we participate in our water communion today, we thank Lucille Shuck Longview and Carolyn McDade, who you know is the writer of Spirit of Life, one of our favorite songs. We thank them for their vision in creating this ritual and for the reminder that we can always strive towards more equity and empowerment for all people. So today we ponder bringing water as a gift of self, as a gift of each of ourselves. You may have water that you brought today from a sacred or a special place that you visited or a place you know of that has meaning for you. Perhaps you brought water from your home. Perhaps you didn't bring water, but you'll pour from the water that is symbolic of the water that you have in mind that holds meaning for you. And if you're on Zoom, perhaps you have some water nearby at your home that you can pour into a bowl as we participate together as one in this ritual. So I invite you to just take a moment and consider what water it is that you bring to our communal bowl and what that water means for you.
We celebrate the coming together of our community once again by pouring of these waters. And even so, these waters remind us of injustice that remains for those who do not have access to clean water today, as we're reminded of Jackson, Mississippi, as we're reminded of the communities here in Nevada where water is not always a guarantee. We affirm our commitment to them. And I want to invite you to cup your hands in front of you to acknowledge in a symbolic way that many people around the world long for thirst, long for water, but their hands are empty. And so as we begin our ceremony, I will pour first from an empty bowl. This container empty of water also reminds us of all those around the world who lack access to safe, affordable water right now. We stand in solidarity with all those who are crying out for the human right to water.
And I will in turn begin our water ceremony. And this is why this ceremony is so meaningful personally to me is that I will pour from last year's water communion, and in this way bring all of our communal history forward with us, because we save a bit of the water from year to year to year. And so every person who poured water into this bowl last year is represented here in this water, and the year before that, 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 and it goes on. And so you're invited now to come forward and pour of your sacred water, both here in this space and at home on Zoom, as we envision that all of these waters mysteriously connect us, and reflecting on what your particular water means to you. our waters have been poured. Our communal waters are now joined together. I invite you to take just a moment and turn to someone seated nearby and share briefly the meaning of the water that you brought to our communal bowl today.
As your story sharing comes to an end, though I am overjoyed to hear the cacophony of the tales you're all telling, I invite us back to center as we bless this water. Water, symbol of community, made holy because we are all a part of it, because we bring meaning to it. This water brings us to a time of reconnection and of new beginnings.
We are embodied creatures. Water is embodied. Our bodies are what? 90% water, 70% water, I forget the number, but it's a lot of water, a surprisingly large number. We're very largely water. We swim in it, we bathe in it, we have to have it for survival. It quenches our thirst. It's drops of rain that find each other and build to become a track, a rivulet, a stream, a river, a sea. So we are drawn together. So we are fortunate to find each other, like the drops in the bucket. So we are bound together on this shared passage toward an unknown ocean and an unknown future. May the waters gathered here remind us what each of us brings to this community, and each of us brings something that nobody else can bring in quite that way. And so these waters nourish us, just as they nourished us before we were even born. Waters that continue to give us sustenance and energy for all of our individual and our communal life journeys.
This water is sacred. It is made sacred by the many hands that have poured it with intention and love. The many stories that each drop contains, the many lives surrounding it in this unique moment, connected by our commitments and our faith. Let us bless this water. Let us bless this water together. Please respond as we give this blessing. The response is, the water is sacred. This water is sacred. This water is sacred. May it continue to flow through this community with shining reflections of the unique gifts that flow through each of us. This water is sacred.
May it continue to nurture our community with sustaining hope that we journey together through ripples of growth and change. This water is sacred.
May it continue to bless this community with loving reminders of our collective responsibility to one another and to the world.
This water is sacred. May its ripples be a reminder that the changes and growth within this community bring movement and transformation to the world beyond our doors.
This water is sacred. May its purity offer grace to our community and the willingness to forgive ourselves and one another's when we make mistakes. This water is sacred.
In moments when we are confused or uncertain or going through difficult times, may it bring us clarity of purpose and commitment. This water is sacred.
In moments when the reservoirs of hearts and spirits are drained by sorrow or pain, may it nourish them with knowledge that we are surrounded by a deep and abundant love. This water is sacred.
It is sacred indeed. The water is now blessed. We are thirsty for connection, connection to ourselves, connection to others, connection to the larger life. May we all be filled. May our thirst be quenched. May we be filled with hope and joy and compassion and love. May we be filled so that we may pour ourselves out into the world. Blessed be.
Start again. Thank you, Bill. You needed more water. Now's the time to share our bounty. Keep the lights on, the cameras running, the work of this congregation going. And I think in the spirit of today, good to reflect on the fact that money is called currency and the root of currency is current. And so as we are honoring the actual water, the way it flows, we can honor our congregation and the work of this congregation by allowing our currency to flow in this offering. So in actuality, we'll be passing the basket. And if you're following virtually, please text 73256. That's 73256. Type in UUFNN in the message box and hit send. You can also mail a check to the office at 780 Del Monte Lane, Reno, 89511. Today's Share the Plate recipient will be the Hug High Scholarship Fund. They provide financial assistance in the form of post-secondary scholarships to outstanding graduating seniors. As many of you know, a majority of Hug High students are from low-income, underserved minority communities. Consequently, many of these scholarship recipients are the first generation of their family to graduate high school, let alone continue on to college. A small donation will go a long way in transforming someone's life. Now let the offering begin. Thank you, David. Let us now join together in our gesture of hope and connection, one hand on your heart and the other reaching out in connection, and repeat along with me, to the work of this fellowship, which is helping more people grow in love, faith, justice, and joy. We dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings. Thank you.
We know that water has great powers of healing and cleansing, and we also know that water is vulnerable to contamination and pollution. And so we ask for help that in our work as healers, in our efforts to ensure that the waters of the world run clear and clean and free, that all of Earth's children would have the water that they need to sustain the abundance of life. Blessed be the water. In the way that water holds us and nourishes us, so we are sustained by water to hold and nourish and nurture our world. Our world is in need of that, of all of the love and the energy and the ways that we can help heal. As we gather our hearts and our minds, our spirits together in our time of community meditation and prayer, so many things to hold today. The wildfires that continue to grow just the other side of the mountains, the firefighters, those who are in danger of losing homes and have experienced losses already, those who were suffering because of the smoke, those who have nowhere to go out of the smoke. Also aware that today is a significant anniversary in the life of our country and our world, 9/11, 21 years ago, that thousands of American lives were lost, which spawned the loss of lives. Tens of thousands of untold lives in the Middle East. We also want to hold in our hearts today Rosie Elwing, who had some medical procedures this last week, is recovering at home now, and Bob Gaw also, who has been in the hospital recently and is in rehab now, recovering. And so we take a moment to take in what is here for us in community, what is here for us in love, what is here for us represented in these waters. And then we send out that energy and love to our world, those places that are hurting, those individuals that are hurting, the places that need our hands, our feet, our voices, our bodies, our strength to bring about justice and equality and equity and reminders to folks that they are not alone and that they are loved. Blessed be, and amen. I want to thank you so much for joining us for our special gathering of the Waters service today. And if you're feeling not quite finished, I'm going to invite you at the close of our service. You are invited. The waters have been blessed and stirred. And if you would like to come up at the end of the service and have a moment with the water and bless yourself or rinse your hands in it or whatever moment you might need or want to continue the moment with the water that is sacred, you are welcome and invited to do that. And Nathan has an announcement for us.
Hello. Still a little bit taller. I just want to give y'all a heads up on the wonderful events coming this fall for UUFNN. The end of the month, September 30th, we'll be doing a congregational camping trip down at Davis Creek Campground. You'll get a lot of emails about it. Ellery's going to be there. It's going to be a big deal. And it's going to be a weekend of fun. You're welcome to come down on Saturday just for the day. We'll be doing a community potluck. There's no cost. It's completely free. If you're interested in coming, email me or talk to me after the service. I also want to let folks know that our faith exploration and spiritual development offerings will be kicking up in October. We'll be running some small groups. I have some really exciting ideas for youth programming to get kids having fun and connecting. And so keep your eyes on your emails. Feel free to reach out to me. And I will be looking for some small group facilitators. So when you get that email and you're interested, please feel free to respond eagerly and excitedly. And I will keep y'all posted as more announcements unfold. So thank you.
Looking very much forward to that camping trip, and you can come for an afternoon, for the day, for an evening. You don't need to be a camper to participate. We want to get as many people there to join in community as we can. Philip's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Tabby's going to be there. Adam's going to be there. Lots of us are going to be there. Lois and Dave are going to be there. So we're pretty excited about that opportunity to be there all together. And we will be officially kicking off in worship our theme for the fall next week, which is nourishing our connections. And so we're going to look at all the ways we nourish our connections. We go deeper in our connections, and that weekend together will be a significant part of that. So we want to get as many people as we can to come share in that opportunity for whatever part of it you can. After service today, there's going to be a Chosen Faith session, especially for newcomers, and you can see David to get more information about how that's going to happen For Zoom folks, it's going to happen on Zoom and here in person as a multi-platform event. So see David if you're interested in that opportunity. And as Nathan said, watch your emails for all of the programs and opportunities upcoming that we have coming your way this fall that we're working on and making plans for right now. We do want to continue to support the Posse, which feeds hungry people, well over 100 now, every Wednesday evening. Look at your email for what you can bring. Bottles of water, they still need hats. Single serve snacks can be brought to the bins between the buildings before Wednesday's early afternoon. And I believe that Nancy Oakley has an announcement.
Hi, I'm a member of the Share the Plate Committee, and I want to first of all thank you all for your generosity over the several years, and to tell you that we usually raise at least $1,000 a month, and we are looking for new organizations. So if you are familiar with an organization, a nonprofit, reach out and we'll help you with the application process. And we'll go forward with our commitment to social justice. And I have a favorite quote that I'd like to share this morning, which is, "Let us be grateful to people who make us happy. They are the charming gardeners who make our souls blossom." And that makes me think of our Reverend Karen, who we all appreciate so much. And Karen, one of your greatest strengths to us is how you express your gratitude and appreciation to each and every one of us when you notice something. And we all have been a beneficiary of that. And now I think it's our turn to do the same to our Reverend Karen and to spend a few minutes in a place of gratitude and love with Karen, because you make such a difference to all of us. You are a wonderful example. You make our place an encouraging place to live and gather. And we want to thank you for the mission that you work on that's beyond yourself. And many in our UU community have felt the same and have actually penned some notes of gratitude for you that we want to share with you. And we also want to invite Leah to come up and say a couple words, and then Stan also.
All right, hi. I get really nervous with public speaking, which is a weird thing to be in my line of work. So hi, I'm Leah Case, this is Charlotte Case, and I'm here today as myself, which is really weird because normally in my line of work, I speak on behalf of other people or groups. So it always takes me a while to find myself again under all of my different hats. So hello. It's much easier to find myself when there's a little light to guide the way. So to start, I just want to say to Reverend Karen, thank you for sharing your light with us and with me. I've been hanging out with this UU crowd now for a little over 2 years, which is 2020 for those of you doing the math. Yeah, when I was invited to speak today, I thought, oh no, I'm too new. And I was promptly reassured that no, my perspective is valued. And then I followed that by thinking, oh yeah, well, those past 2 years, that's like a decade and a half. So yeah, all right, makes sense. In that time, Karen and the little light she carries have navigated all of us through rough, systemic, and personal terrain, finding ways to bring joy and ground us in hope. One day she said to me, "I appreciate your ability to make things happen," which I don't know if you realize this is way up there on the list of compliments for me. She just reached right in and found my power at the exact time that I was struggling to find it for myself. So now I rarely miss a Sunday. So hi, Zoom people. It's weird to be in the room, but I know you're out there. I rarely miss a Sunday because I need this spiritual refill from my cup and to make my cup, hi friends, and to make my cup a little bigger. Karen's weekly reminder at the opening of service to come fully present, exactly as you are, as we are, and as I am, has been on my mind as I think about how to express my gratitude for her leadership and mentorship. Being fully present is hard. Being welcomed and wanted as that fully present version of myself is almost unbelievable. And yet here I am, because week after week and moment after moment, Karen is there to remind us that we are all welcome and totally accepted as we are, all of us, all of me, and all of you. And that beautiful kind of light is something to be celebrated. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Stan Dunford Jackson. My personal pronouns are thee, thy, and thou. I want you to remember them. Actually, right here, it says he and him, and that's good enough. As Lady Gaga said, I was born this way. So Reverend Karen gave me the answer to an almost lifelong problematic question. I've been a member of Alcoholics Anonymous since July of 1994. And so I went to a treatment hospital in Virginia, and we lived in Virginia then. Have you ever heard of the term Bible Belt? Yeah, well, the capital town of the Bible Belt is Culpeper, Virginia. And that's where we live. So after I got out of this treatment center, where I'd been introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous, we came back to Culpeper, and I found the non-smoking meetings. Yes, there were smokers. It was Virginia. I found them, and I went to a meeting every day at 11 o'clock in lieu of an official lunch break. And since I was the new kid on the block, I sat and listened, and I listened, and I listened. You want to know what I heard? I heard God, God, Godity, God, Godity, God, Godity, Jesus, Jesus, Godity. That's what I heard. And sometime around the age of 14, I discovered that I was and had always been atheistic. So I didn't understand that word. I didn't care to. So we moved here in January of 1996. And several years later found UUFNN. And I asked Reverend Karen if I could discuss something with her. Yes, of course. So we met in her office. I said, I have a real problem with G-O-D. She said, yes, a lot of people do. So I asked her, could she explain it to me? She said, well, it's pretty tough. But she told me the things that we believe in here, that we live together in love, faith, justice, and joy. And then she asked me what my thoughts were on G-O-D. I said, well, I remember going to Sunday school as a boy and summertime Bible school, where we learned little soft catechisms and stuff. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, da, 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 da. And things like that. So I didn't have any answers, but I had questions. And so Reverend Karen talked to me about
love. That's what makes the world go together. And, you know, as a child, I learned God is love. Now, I've taken classes in logic, so I know a tautology when I hear one. So if God is love, love is God. You know, we talk about coming together in love, faith, justice, and joy. What is the first one? It's love. And that is what Reverend Karen gave to me. So now I have a framework that I understand. Thank you, Karen. This has been a godsend.
There's a theme going here, which I'm going to add to. When I was 18, I learned so-called Christian churches didn't want me. Not just me, but people like me, gay. At that time, I was a true believer, and I wanted my church to love me as I loved the church. But I was cast an outsider, and without a container that could hold both me and God, I let go of God. My father, who loved and accepted me, didn't want me to struggle with matters of spirit and faith alone. So 20 years later, he discovered a church near where I lived at the time that had an open pastor. But it was still a church vowing to forgive the sinner, but disdain the sin. That experience taught me that if I was going to make it as a spirit, learning to inhabit my humanness, I'd have to make it on my own. And I did for more than 20 years. In fact, going it alone became my solace. I'm a solo practitioner as a counselor, in fact, never quite fitting into any other practice, agency, or corporation. I think most of us can relate to being the one not picked to be a member of the kickball team in first grade, not picked to write for the school newspaper, or not picked to sit with the popular kids at lunch. But I think most of us have probably also known that feeling when we have been seen for who we really are and that our story really mattered. Our pain, our fear, our love, our joys could be shared. Everyone deserves a spiritual home, regardless, as we say, of racial identity, age, economic circumstances, immigration status, sexual orientation, or gender identity. What called me here to UUFNN was a sense of spiritual safety. What kept me here was being seen and loved for who I am. Reverend Karen, true to her nature, sees our needs, both individual and global, recognizes our gifts, and loves all of us exactly as we are, or who she believes we could be, even better. I remember the first time I sat in the great room for Sunday service. Reverend Karen made a beeline for me during the postlude and invited me to be a part of her team immediately, encouraging me to be a helper in the children's program. Do you remember that? After explaining to her that I would eat my young, tastes like chicken, she let me know that she believed in me and that I could do great things at UUFNN and to just make room for the possibilities. Though I became a member very soon after that introduction to Reverend Karen, at almost the same time, I started another master's program and became a lapsed Unitarian essentially immediately after becoming a member, attending services sporadically. Then came the 2020 election. I can't say I know exactly what guided Reverend Karen to offer daily, sometimes hourly group sessions but I'm guessing she saw in the hearts of her fellowship a despondent heaviness in need of something to hold us up to the light in a time of dreadful darkness. I went to almost every single one of those sessions. I was scared to the point of being nearly suicidal. I spilled my ugly guts in those meetings, sharing my hurt, my fear, my devastation. And Reverend Karen held all of it with me, making it just a little lighter, a little more bearable. Then the January 6th attempted coup d'etat, and once again, Reverend Karen held us close like a loving parent, trying to protect us from even more despair. Then, right away after the wind flew out of the traitorous sails, the pandemic. I won't belabor that one, it's too soon. But I can say, having been the daughter of a minister, there is no way seminary prepares ministers for what the pandemic brought us and took from us. And believe me, preaching to an empty house is not what draws folks to the ministry. But through all of this, Reverend Karen was the hope and the light for this fellowship. She sees us, she knows us, she loves us. I never imagined that I would be part of the us she sees, knows, and loves. At best, I assume she saw me as one of the walking wounded. But one night, Reverend Karen called me saying she needed a favor from me. I remember my head dropping in prepared shame. Then I raised my head and I said, I will do anything for you, just don't ask me to work with the kids. Remember? She paused, as if replaying that statement in her mind a few times to make sure she understood what I said. Then responded, well, then today is your lucky day. That was the day I became a worship associate. And that is how I know that Reverend Karen sees each of us through and through, and that she sees a place for all of us to connect into this fellowship. Reverend Karen brought me back inside. I no longer struggle with matters of faith and spirit alone. And for that, I will be eternally grateful to Reverend Karen. Please join me in thanking Reverend Karen for seeing us.
Get up if you can. We have lyrics? Do we? Come on.
Thanks for the love today, and right back at you. Whatever you have received as blessing, as strength, as hope today, take it and treasure it and nurture it in your heart, as I surely will. And then offer it lavishly, like so much water flung forth to the healing of our world. Blessed be, amen, and namaste.